Oh, we are at max capacity here. Subframe's painted. I pressed in the condor bushings. You actually really don't have to press them in if you have a good solid surface. I just placed the top one in. I think with the back ones I actually pushed them in, or no, the front ones I pushed them in with my hands, the tops. And then the bottom one I had to set it in and smack it with like the rubber mallet right there by Hannah's feet. And that was like good enough to get those all the way in, and then the mallet, I just did the rest of them with the mallet in my hands. So these like front ones, they have this was kind of not confusing, but once you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But on the front here, it has this drop, this little shoulder in here, and that's for the studs that are on the bottom of the E46. They have studs on the front, and then there's a nut, a hex nut that you tighten that stud into the chassis with, but this gives you space for the hex nut to sit in here. And then back here, these ones are pretty flush once they're all the way compressed. This one's not compressed all the way, but these sit pretty flush too. It really smashes these. On the bottom side here, you can see how it's a little wider than the other side, and that's because it has a shoulder that hangs off, and those shoulders always go from the bottom up into them. And those two, you push in the whites by themselves, and then when you get the sleeve, when you want to put the aluminum sleeve in, you insert it on one side and you just tap it through. But there's so much more in this episode, so just stay tuned, dude. We're gonna be doing a lot of stuff. Are you listening? I don't remember how it goes.
Are you listening? Do 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 do. Damn.
And then it goes, yeah.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Now we're back. So right now I'm filling up the diff, and on these winters what you're gonna want to do is there's a couple different spots you can fill it from. There's a fill hole up on the front here. You can't really see it, but it's over here. There's a fill hole up here, which is the one I used, and then this one down here is the level hole. So you pull this out, and as soon as gear oil, you fill it up on like a level surface. It's not the levelest, but we'll be okay.
The levelest?
It's not the levelest surface. It's not the most level surface. But pretty much you fill it up, and then as soon as the gear oil starts to kind of run out of this hole, you plug it back up because you're at the right height. You don't want to fill it past the center point. It's very clear on their instructions online, but I'll give you guys that one. You don't have to go do your research on that. You just don't fill it past all that line there. Then there's a rear cavity back here for the rear gears. I can show you that on this side. There's this little window here. It should pump like gear oil. Yeah, see there's some in there. But this back here also needs to have a certain amount of gear oil in it. I'm gonna double check for you real quick because I can't remember and I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I'm pretty sure you have to fill this one all the way up to the drain plug as well. This is just a service like plug, so you can actually see in there and look at the gears and see what condition they're in and stuff like that. Let me do my homework. And I was right. You are gonna want to fill this until it starts to run out like such, and then cap it back up. Oh my God, it's an expensive plug. Sorry, Hannah, if you're watching this. I didn't mean to do that.
I'm right here.
Oh, crap, now I'm in trouble.
You can't say sorry, Hannah, if you're watching this anymore because you want me to film every time now.
You're right, it is easier. What do you guys like more? Tell me what you like more, actually. Do you like Hannah filming and me being able to have both hands free? Or do you like more of the first person stuff? I think either way I'm gonna have Hannah film. But I'm kind of curious what you guys think. I'm curious, but I don't care. What a jerk. So this thing goes on really freaking tough. We have to kind of work it to get it on. Work it, lady, work it. All right, so it's gonna need a little bit of help. It's a really snug fit. It's not intended to be like taken out with the diff in the car. Just so you guys know that. The ring and pinion, we should never hurt, so there's no reason to really make it completely removable. Forgive me while I figure out my life. It's a really snug fit. But it does fit, I promise. There it goes. And voila. Let's throw these bolts in. Pro tip, when you're putting a bunch of stuff together like this, it's best to get thread started maybe a few turns in and leave it loose until you get all the other bolts in. Because you can find yourself, if you tighten these down, the other ones won't line up or something of that nature. Such as right now. Try to get the other side in first. All right, so another pro tip. If you can't get something to line up, it's a good idea to have something of a screwdriver's nature, pick, punch, anything like that. And because we have 2 holes in it, it really is when you can do this actually. You can put this thing in this hole and you can really move and guide the other bolt or stud or nut or whatever you're trying to put in there. This is gonna fight me. All right, let's try it the other way. Can you grab me the socket for this? And the ratchet?
This is a ratchet.
Right. And when you're doing this, try to start stuff by hand. And if it feels super tight, stop screwing it in because you're probably cross-threading it. You don't want to do that because that'll cause you so much more pain, frustration, and troubles. It's kind of like having a girlfriend. Oh.
Good thing I'm a wife.
Straight up. Backpack, yeah.
Okay.
I hit my knee. Oh, I hit it like right on the tendon right there on the outside. Anybody who rides bikes, you know what I'm going through right now. Oh, we're gonna stretch it out, yeah. And it sucks because you like barely have to tap it. That crap freaking hurts. Do it for the people. You can do this. Oh, I hit it right on the corner of the freaking input U-joint bracket. God, that hurt. All right, ditching this up right now. I had to bore the holes a little bit because we didn't make the jig. So it is what it is. Remember, kids, always make a jig if you can. If you have the means. If you don't, then it is what it is. What's up, Bonnie? Sucks because these freaking arms, like, the way the diff is set up, I can't put them in afterward. You really need to like get it all the way in on one side, I think would be the best bet. Push it to where it needs to go first, which is pretty close to that position. Slide it over all to this side. See if that gives us enough clearance for this arm. It does. Slide it back centered. I might need you to guide that arm.
Oh shit.
So we got the subframe in with Diff. I need to hand his help lining some stuff up. This side over here, the guys messed up quite some time ago. The driver's side rear, the guys before me. I had this car, and so it kind of bit me. It didn't really line up right. The actual factory nut that's in there, or like insert that was in there that's threaded, was kind of pitched at an angle, and they had welded it back in. So I went to put the bolt into it. It had started, and then it was just so far off that the bolt kind of chewed up on one side of the thread, and then just started skipping, and it really wrecked the whole thing. What I ended up doing was just cutting out all their crap, and I just put a through bolt with a nut on it, because it's already reinforced the plating, but it needs to be redone. I'm just not going to do it this season. I'm going to do it next season. So now it has a lug nut with like a replacement bolt. It's kind of like super ghetto, but it is what it is. The drive shaft's in, the upper arms are all in, the diff has fluid in it. And the next thing I was going to do is install the axles and then install the lower control arms, and then I have to do the drive shaft hoop and then reinstall the exhaust. So far everything looks really good, beside that stupid bolt that kind of caused a lot of problems and drama. That kind of bugged me. It kind of put me in a sour mood, but things are going together now. Fairly easy in the way they're supposed to, so now I'm not too worried about it, but it just took me for a ride for a second because I didn't know what I was going to do, and then I needed to take a break. Took a break, and then I thought of it. Just cut it and through bolt it for now, and we'll fix it later. But now it's time to slide some axles in and get those spacers all put in and whatnot. Oh my god, something's in my eye. Alright, let's put the axles in. Now on these axles, some of you guys have issues. Well, not some of you. I've had issues in the past with like getting them to slide in real easy. One of the best things I can say is to get you like some knock loose or some kind of lubricant. This stuff just is nice because it kind of eats up some of the corrosion. Sorry, I just had dinner. But I just spray this all over the spline. I sprayed on the splines there, and I sprayed on the splines in here. And that'll usually go over fairly well. So usually slide in there pretty decent. You're still gonna have to work it, but it's just not gonna be as bad as just rubbing corroded rust against corroded rust. Now at least there's a little bit of lubricant in there. So we'll see how far we can get it to slide in. I just did this the other day when I was test fitting a bunch of stuff. It went in fairly easy and we didn't have too many problems. There she goes. There you go, the thread should be sticking out, yep. So now we gotta put the nut on it, which is over on the cardboard. We'll install the other side real quick and then we'll come back. You can sometimes get away with pulling it through with the threads. I don't suggest it. The only way I'd say to do that is if it has like at least a full, or half at least, half the nut sticking out worth the threads. If there's only a few sticking out, like if you could turn it on there like 3 or 4 times, then I'd say run it in with the gun, but just be careful when you do that. You can get away with it, but sometimes it'll pull just those first few threads and then you're screwed again. So just be careful. So then you just gotta put your 12-point nut on this axle here. Get that threaded by hand. Don't start it with the gun. You will cross-thread something and ruin your life. So for these axle nuts, I just run them in with the gun all the way. That should be good. This gun's like torque rating is like 500 foot-pounds or something crazy. Obviously be careful. I've done this a few times, so I'm kind of comfy with a gun. Now I gotta go under the car and put in our adapters and axle bolts. 6 on that, 6 on that. Okay, on those to use an impact as well, you just want to make sure you have a good bit, because they'll snap. Make sure you have the right size, because if you don't have the right size Allen bit, you're gonna strip it and it's gonna be hell to get off. I know I keep talking about stripping things and breaking things. I'm seriously just trying to help you avoid going through all kinds of unnecessary drama. All right, so this one will go on this side, this one will go on this side. Then we need to get thread locker on these. You can set these up in here. You gotta kind of work the boot around them. Push the boot and push those in. Depending on your axles, but mine, I always have the grease coming out of them, and so it gets all over the threads, and grease on the threads isn't really good because it'll come free over sometime. Try to keep the threads as clean as you can. What I like to do is put some Loctite on them. It dries with the absence of air, and it helps lock your threads in. Slide the adapter in. It's not really an adapter, it's more of a spacer, but it's a spacer slash adapter. It really is what it is. And so you want to kind of work the arm out. You're going to try to get these all fitted in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start these by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and start them all. Again, just try to start everything you can by hand, because you can. Say it with me. Strip the threads. Good job, you're learning. Oh, I'm gonna need you to put it in neutral again. There you go. You might have to leave your car in gear. This car we can put it in neutral because we're using an impact to tighten all these down. So we don't have to really worry about spinning the axles or anything like that. It's kind of cool to see the axles go the opposite way now. And what I mean by that is instead of having an angle up like this when the car's slammed, now they're pretty straight, if not level, once the car's going to be sitting on the floor. So that's kind of cool. You're probably wondering, why run an adapter to this to run a factory M3 axle? The answer is very simple. The point is to build the car in such a manner where it's easy to find parts for it and easy to repair it. So now that I have something in my eye, now we put ourselves in a position where if the axle ever breaks on this, we don't have to go find some custom one and order it and wait for it to come in or anything like that. That's the idea, that's the goal. With these spacers, that's pretty much a mission accomplished for us. All right, so the upper arm has to go in before everything else, as you saw earlier. The lower arm will slide right in, no problem. Misalignment spacers lined up. Shimmy that in there, hold it in place. So that goes right in. BMW has this weird little, it almost looks like a key. We'll call it a key nut. I don't know what it's called. You can tighten the bolt into it without having to hold a wrench or anything on the other side. It'll kind of spin and hit the subframe and stop, and it'll allow you to tighten down the bolt. Just pull this wheel out. Gotta line this up. Boom. Just work the other side. Washer on. Voila! The rear end is buttoned up, back up together. We can put the wheels back on. The main things that need to go back on, which we're not going to do in this episode, I'll probably just do them on the side, is the drive shaft hoop up in the front and then the full exhaust wheels, and we'll put the car on the floor. So in the next episode, we'll be testing out the quick change. It's got a new gear ratio in it, so it should make the car feel a little different. I've never driven one before. I don't know anything about the driving style of them. I know that they do make a lot of noise, similar to the dog box, and I do not have a problem with that because I actually think it sounds really freaking cool, and all I hear is reliability. I really like that sound of reliability. Hey, tell your homies about us. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, hit the like button for whatever reason. I don't know what it does for us, but yeah, that'd be cool if you like it. If you don't, then hit the dislike button. I don't care. Stay safe, homies.